Would you like a keto pizza crust that's thin and crispy, but actually holds your toppings? It takes 2 secret ingredients. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Keto Baking Mechanic. Here we create, tweak, and enhance keto and low-carb breads and baked goods. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification button so you can be informed when I have other videos coming down the pike. The first secret ingredient is a low-carb sourdough discard. Yes, low-carb sourdough discard. I'll talk about that in a minute. The second secret ingredient, well, it's actually not an ingredient, it's a functioning property. I distinguish the difference. So functioning properties are the things you have in the kitchen that you use all the time that are really, they have a specific function instead of an ingredient like salt, baking powder, baking soda. And in this case, the secret functioning property is xanthan gum. Yeah, let down, right? You're probably saying to yourself, xanthan gum? I use that all the time in my keto and low-carb baking. That's not a secret. I waited this long to watch this video just to hear xanthan gum? That's not new. And that's true, we do. We use xanthan gum all the time in our keto and low-carb baking. We use it to thicken sauces and soups and chilies and gravies and even in ice cream.
In this recipe, we push the limit to 2 teaspoons.
That gives this pizza crust that firm undercarriage, as Dave Portney would say, the firm undercarriage that's going to allow you to hold all of your toppings, pick it up in one hand, fold it over in a good old traditional Italian way, and take a bite.
Now for the first secret, a low-carb living sourdough starter.
I produce low-carb sourdough dehydrated starters, and that's what we're going to use tonight. Is the dehydrated starter, and we will be bringing this to life. When you get the starter, it's $19.99. The older ones are a little bit more expensive, and you bring it to life. Once you bring it to life, you can have it forever. You just have to feed it regularly, just like with traditional sourdough. But when you buy this, you automatically get a guide that shows you how to bring it to life, and then a slew of recipes, including this 3-ingredient keto low-carb pizza crust. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our almond flour to the bowl. I use just my strainer, but if you have a sifter, that's great. The smaller the holes when you're sifting, the finer the almond oil or the almond flour will be, and that's perfect for keeping the grainy texture out of the crust. So we're going to start with 1 cup of the almond flour and 2 tablespoons. Believe it or not, those 2 extra tablespoons make a difference for spreading the crust. And also 2 teaspoons of 0-carb xanthan gum. If you find one that's 1 carb per teaspoon, that's okay. By the way, this crust is 8 slices in a 12-inch crust. You're cooking it in a 14-inch tray. It shrinks down to 12 inches. You make 8 slices, and each slice is actually 1.7 net carbs. So, you know, if you get an extra net carb here and there, it's not going to make that much of a difference. So we're going to add our xanthan gum. I do it this way. And you know what I'm going to do? I think I'm going to move my camera so you can actually see a little bit closer. I had all this set up on a different tripod so that you could see it, but I'm going to have to figure out how to do that. So here we have our almond flour, and we're just going to sift it into the bowl. You can see it going in there. It only takes a couple minutes. It really makes a difference. This little bit of extra time that you're taking to sift the flour, it makes the world of difference with the crust between tasting a little bit of, you know, a grainy texture and actually something that you don't taste it at all. So you just get that in there. Okay, we're going to add this to the bowl. And then we're going to add a 1/4 cup of extra light virgin olive oil. The extra light makes a difference because if you get a heavier olive oil, it's going to make the crust more dense and not as light and crispy. So you want to just add in that olive oil. Okay, so hands are getting a little dirty. And we're just going to give it a stir. I'll show it to you once I pull it together. You're going to pull it into like a wet dough. For our next class, I will have the camera figured out, so it will be on horizontally so you can see me rather than on the social media vertical look. I had all this worked out today, and for some reason, it's my first one. I don't know what I'm doing. So, okay. So here we go. I'm just going to show it to you. This is our dough, and we're going to let it sit for about 15 to 30 minutes. 15 is good, 30 is better. And what that does is it allows the xanthan gum to pull it all together and create a nice dough. So we're going to leave that. Now, once that's, I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to wait that long because we're not going to sit here for 15 minutes waiting for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, which is the most important part, how to lay it out. Okay, so let's pretend that the dough has been sitting for 15 to, I don't know, 30 minutes. So we're just going to pull this out. And I'm just going to get a bit of water in a cup for my hands. Now, I usually do this by the sink, but what the water does is if you wet your hands, the xanthan gum gets very sort of gummy, and it helps you to spread out the dough. So let me just move this. So I'll move this as well so I can bring this up as close as possible so that you can see. So you just want to wet your fingers, and when you're pressing it out, use your whole palm, not just your fingers, because if you use your fingers, you're going to tear the dough. So just press it out. It's like we're just pressing out. Now, one thing I'm going to do first, which I forgot to do, is I like to spray it. I like to spray the pan so that the parchment paper stays put. I just forgot to do that. So just give it a little spray. Put it back. And now it's going to stick to the pan, so you'll have an easier time spreading it out. And you're just pushing it toward the edges. Don't worry about the center so much at first. You just want to get it out to the edges. And then once you do that, we can work on the center, making sure it's nice and even. So we just want to push it out with your whole palm. And it's kind of like a pressing, pushing motion. And then I just even use one hand. If it gets a little thick, you just kind of spread it out. You want to just get it right to the edge. It's really pliable, so it's easy to move. So you can literally move it around as much as you like just to get it. Just, you know, you'll get better at it each pizza you make. And really, with so low net carbs, you could do so much with this pizza crust. It doesn't always have to be the same ingredients. It doesn't take that long at all to get it. Once you have that water on your hands, it makes it super easy to spread. And then once you have it to the edge, you just want to go through here to see any dark spots or divots so that you can even it out, so you don't want the crust to break in those areas. So just use your hand to level it off and get rid of any areas that look like they're a bit strange. Okay, so the next step is you're going to use the back of your spoon toward the dough so that it's pressing. So it's pressing up against the dough. And all you're doing is you're pulling the crust away from the tray for two reasons. When it starts to shrink, it doesn't stick to the tray and then tear. Also, using the spoon just gives it a nice edge so it looks more professional rather than kind of crusty and strange. And if it's a little thicker, what I do is I just pull it back into the dough and straighten it out. Now, the next step is we're going to put a fork through it, just like with a pie crust, so it releases the steam so that when the dough is baking, when the crust is baking, it doesn't become uneven. You want it to stay nice and flat. So the holes in it allow for the moisture to escape. It makes the crust crispier, and it also makes it even. So let me get a fork. Everything's in my dishwasher. Okay, so I'm going to take this and just go across it. I'm going to give it one extra spray of either avocado oil or olive oil. Just the spray is nice because it's not too thick. Just give it a nice little spray. And it's ready to go in the oven. When you put it in the oven, you're going to put it on the rack lower than the center, not on the very bottom, but like the lowest rack, because we want the bottom of the crust to become crispier than the top. We're going to add the ingredients, and then on the second baking with all the toppings on it, it will really start to come up. So we're going to put this in the oven, and you're going to watch it because you don't know how your own oven works yet. It could actually be old and the temperatures are different. So brand and age make a difference for temperature. So roughly it's going to be in 12 to 15 minutes depending on your oven. So the best thing to do is after about 7 minutes, just stand by the stove and watch it, because for some reason it'll look like it's not done and suddenly it's just turning brown. So you got to be very careful. Don't leave it for too long because you could end up with a burnt crust. And this tray's too big, but this is what the crust is going to look like. So after you've baked it, let it cool. Then you're going to remove the parchment paper and put the crust back on your 14-inch tray. I only have one 14-inch tray, which is over there, so I'm using the bigger one here. So you're just putting it on there, and you're all ready for your toppings. I've done a few toppings. Here's what you need to know about your base coat. If you're using a base coat that has oil in it, like tonight I'm going to use a green pesto, then you don't need to put any oil on it because it already has oil in it. But if you're using a tomato sauce, you're going to want to add just another spray of the oil, because it will seal the crust so that the tomato sauce doesn't actually go into the crust and make it soggy. So I don't need to do that because I'm going to work with a pesto. So I have some pesto here. I love pesto because it's low in carbs. If you make it yourself, you can do it with some avocado oil and even add some MCT, medium chain triglyceride oil, which is really great for the brain. So here it is. And when you spread it, because this is a delicate crust, you want to spread the sauce right up to the edges. Don't leave any of the crust blank. If you do, it'll get too burnt. So we're just going to add that in there. I absolutely love this crust. I've been making so many of these pizzas, just trying to perfect the crust, but I can't eat them all. So I'm constantly calling people who say, would you like a pizza? I'll eat like a piece of it, and then I have to let it go, because if I don't let it go quickly, I'll eat the whole thing. It's just so tasty. So, and you don't want it too thick because we're still making sure we don't have too much saturated fat. Remember, you've got the saturated fat in the cheese, so you don't want to have too much elsewhere as well. Okay, so we've got our sauce. I then put, just to seal it, I like to put a little bit of mozzarella first before I lay the ingredients out. You don't have to go heavy with it. We're just going to do a bit of those. Then I'm going to add some pepperoni. Try to look for your cured meats that are not, they don't contain sulfites. See if you can find some natural ones that don't contain sulfites. They are available. Just the less preservatives you have, the better. So we're just going to lay these babies out. See, pepperoni, spicy pepperoni, non-taster, love it. This is when I start to feel like, I'm eating something that I really enjoy. I don't feel like I'm deprived at all. So you can do whatever ingredients you like. You don't need to do pesto. You could do a tomato sauce. Here's the other thing. When you're doing ingredients, try to pre-cook them in advance so that the pizza's not wet. Like if you're using, mushrooms, for example, pre-cook them. I do roasted garlic. I love roasted garlic. I use the whole bulb on one pizza. I'm not doing that today because I like to stay married. Okay, so just going to lay these babies out. Then, of course, jalapenos. My favorite. This is the bite that I need to go, yes, I'm enjoying life even though I'm low carb. Okay, so salty. So we have spicy, we have salty, we have aged pepperoni, we've got the sourdough crust that's also got some umami. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit more mozzarella, not too much, just a nice tiny little layer. I don't want it too heavy because I want to be able to pick the pizza up. We don't want a refrigerator full of food on top of the pizza. But I love my pizzas to have that like stringy cheese. So I go with a nice provolone on top. I just lay a few slices out. Put them in here. And, okay, we're going to put this in. We're going to leave this in there for about 15 minutes. And turn off the oven. Look at this. Look at that beautiful pizza. Oh my goodness. Let's see here. I'm going to see if I can bring it closer so you can just see. I'll hold on to it so it doesn't flip off the thing. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? So we're going to cut this. It's still a little hot, so I don't know if I'll be able to pick it up. Let's see here. Okay, so now it's a bit hot, but I'm going to try to pick it up so you can see the undercarriage. So look at this. Look at this pizza. Look at that. It holds up. You don't have to eat it with a fork. You just eat it like a traditional pizza. I'm not going to take a bite yet because it's too hot. So, well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the recipe. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be notified when I have other recipes coming down the pike. Have a great day.